Ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to the Discourse for today, June 2nd, 2023. I'm your host, Tristan. Hello, everybody. How are we doing, chat? How's everybody? How's everybody over in YouTube land / Twitch land? Can I get a holler? Who's here? Anyways. My name's Tristan. I'm the host of the YouTube channel Step Back and the podcast It's Probably Not Aliens, or co-host of It's Probably Not Aliens. And I stream on Fridays at noon, which is what I'm doing right now. I also stream on I stream on Fridays at noon, at least when I make it. Obviously, apologies for missing last week's stream. I had let's just say that this is another one of those videos that was like passing a kidney stone. So I ended up having to film the video. The video filming process took almost a week longer than I anticipated. And so I needed to finish filming, or else there would have been dire consequences. This video was already pretty close to being late, and I had to burn up a one of our backlogs of the podcast in order to get it done. So it's out, though. It's out. If you want to support me making more kidney stones, you can go to nebula.tv/stepback and sign up. If you sign up there, as long as you stay a member of Nebula, you are supporting me for as long as you're a member. So much appreciated if you do so. And if you want to support me directly, you can go to patreon.com/stepbackhistory. Great stuff. You get the early videos that are ad-free. The only thing you don't get is like anything that's going to be Nebula exclusive, or, you know, all of the other creators on Nebula and all of their wonderful stuff. If you have Amazon Prime, you can support my channel by using your monthly Twitch Prime subscription on Step Back, or on the Step Back History Twitch channel. It costs you nothing and it helps me out a little bit. And if you have things like super chats, or if you have a little bit of cash, super chats, bits, and subscriptions are all welcome and appreciated. So, oh, and memberships. So much appreciated to everybody who does those things. My latest video, which came out yesterday, called China Rising: What the West Needs to Know, has come out. It is I'm going to say at this point in the process, I will say that it is a moderate success. It's doing okay. One of the things that they use to gauge the performance of a video is they compare the views on a video ranked with the 9 previous videos you released before this. At that point since their release, like they compare them at like right now the video is 1 day 47 minutes old. And it compares that with where the views of your last 9 releases were at 1 day, 47 minutes. And at the moment, it is at 4 out of 10. So it is outperforming 6 of my last 9 releases. Hopefully that makes sense. Sitting at a comfy 8.2k views. Good stuff. And I would say this is a video that I worked super duper hard on. This is one that really killed me. So, you know, watching it, spreading it around. I hope people like it. I know that this one was a tough one. This one was one where, well, I'll get into it when I get into the meat and potatoes of the stream. But basically, this video was a pretty tough project overall for me to do. For various different reasons. And but yeah, my next video, so because of VidCon coming up in the next it's coming up in a little over 2 weeks. I'll be leaving on the 19th and coming back on the 21st, which means that I basically lose like a week of working on this next video. So I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm doing something that's a little bit more fun and less dense, which after the China video, I think I'm perfectly entitled to. It's gonna be the closest thing I have to a vacation in Step Back when you own your own business. But basically, I'm going to make a Presidents of the United States tier list in a video. it'll be very funny. I'm already looking forward to it. And I'm already working on a really cool thumbnail that's got like, it looks like the character selection screen from Mortal Kombat. So already we're off to a really good start. Let's see what else we got. If you want to submit questions for future streams, you can go to stepbackhistory.com/stream-question. I'm going to put a link in the chat. Mia's not going to be showing up today, so it's just going to be you and me. So I'll probably answer a bunch of questions. I think we only have a handful of questions. You only have about 6 questions. So I'll probably answer any questions you submit today. And if I don't, I'll hang on to my questions for a month. But I have a feeling that unless I get really, really, really distracted, then I will probably answer today. The thumbnail for the China video is good. Yeah, it is good. It's, what's it called? So it was a bit different because usually I get my thumbnail... usually when my thumbnails are added... How should I say this properly? Normally, my thumbnail designer is a guy named Hot Cider. He does a bunch of thumbnails for really, really, really good YouTube channels. He's like Jacob Geller's thumbnail designer, but he does a bunch of people's thumbnails, and he's really, really, really good at it. And unfortunately, last month he was out because he had appendicitis, and we were all the YouTube thumbnails all looked a little less good last month as a result. So I worked. So I used the thumbnail I had for this video was designed in-house at Nebula, and I thought it was pretty good. It's no Hot Cider, but you know, I'm biased because Hot Cider is he's cool. I like him a lot. Is the YouTube stream the one he's actually monitoring? I have a thing that has both of them, so I follow both. And let's see. Okay. Next, if you have any new folks, so if there is anybody where it's their first time watching the stream, please make yourself known in the chat. We have a really cool chat community, and I feel like I have a really good time just hanging out with people, and you guys have your own conversation. It works really well. Please say hello. Join in the talk. Once I get this opening spiel done, I'll go and look at the chat, and then I can say more of what's going on. And furthermore, I'm gonna look at the chat first, and then we'll do dubs. All right. I'm a tanky, huge CCP supporter. Thought you did a pretty good job of being neutral. There's still some stuff I think you have a pretty Western view on, but you did a good job. Well, okay, I'll take it. Try my best. Trying to put together something that's based on academic and good sources, but also is not straight up propaganda for one side or the other is difficult. The problem with covering China and Chinese history is that one, the country itself, China, has a very, very, very strict censorship regime over a lot of the more tricky bits of their recent history. So it's really hard to, you know, find out exactly what happened during these things that they've officially said are not allowed to be talked about. And furthermore, there's this effort to spin China as the villain of world history. So there's not really a good way to get good information. I think I hinted at it slightly when I was talking about how they responded to Hong Kong, that China does itself more of a disservice by being so being so opaque and so controlling over information about its own history, that I think that does it a disservice. I think it creates more enemies than friends, but that's just me. Obviously, they have their own reasons for doing their thing. I am not somebody who actually is going to be consulted. Let's see. How can you do a tier list of presidents? You'll only be able to fill the E and F rows. You might have already walked into what the gag is going to be. I will say, so far there are going to be 2 presidents that are not going to be E and F tier. Including one. There is one S tier president who's perfect, was the perfect president and should be the model that all presidents follow. But that's spoilers for the next for the video. Matt Lipton's back. That's pretty good. And let's see. Good stuff. Talbo is back. Nice. Okay. Well, now that I'm caught up with the chat, I'm hoping to buy some rad pins. The Auntie said one. Migrants are welcome pin and BLM. Cool. I want to buy. There is a communist. The same person who made the artist who made this poster that I got for my anniversary, has a communist Starfleet insignia pin that I want very badly. The thing about me with pins is I don't really have things to wear pins on anymore. My only, which you would think would be weird because now, as Matt knows, because Matt lives in the same province as me, we live in a province now where single-use plastic bags are now banned. So the near term, and they replaced it with nothing. They just replaced it with the fact that now when you go to the grocery store or whatever, you just don't get bags anymore. You just can't have them. Or you have to pay like $1 and buy another reusable, like one of those shitty reusable what's it called? Grocery bags. And so, in the not too distant future, I think it's going to be pretty common that people are just going to have like simple, like I bought like a drawstring backpack because of that. And now I just sort of have this backpack that I can fit in my pocket if I really need to. But you can't really put pins on something like that. But yeah, it is like, what's it called? I'm totally for the getting rid of single-use plastics when it comes to plastic bags. It's just replacing it with nothing, or reusable bags when, like, you know, we live in like a sort of gig economy situation now where people do like, you know, like grocery deliveries and like, you know, Uber Eats deliveries and stuff like that. Now there's a whole article I read about how like Instacart drivers now have to like load up on reusable bags, which arguably probably uses more plastic than the single-use ones. So I don't know. Can grocery stores have communal bags of return, or would that be hard to keep hygienic? I think it'd be hard to keep hygienic. Why can we? Yeah, I think Orange Man pointed out. Why don't we just use paper bags? Paper bags, and like every grocery store has like the box bin, where at the front of the store there's like this big bin full of all of their leftover boxes. Could we not use a combination of paper bags and boxes? Why is that a problem? I don't know. Feels like we should definitely just move to paper bags. But we don't, for some reason. Maybe it's going to be a thing in the future. But for me, I have this sort of like drawstring backpack that I keep on me because what's it called? I can say words. I have to say words for the next 2 hours, so I gotta do it. I bought it for the gym because I used to go and walk to the YMCA to go to the gym. So it's like a sturdy drawstring bag, because you get a lot of drawstring bags as like shitty like merch that gets handed out at like events. So I had a lot of broken, shitty drawstring bags, like from like previous VidCons and stuff like that. But I wanted to get one that actually had some stability, so I bought a good one. And then I found very quickly that when the baby was born, that I basically have zero time to ever go to the gym. So now I just have this bag, this really nice like drawstring backpack that I use for buying groceries, basically. What it means, though, is that I feel like a lot of the solutions for a lot of people is probably going to end up being like shitty drawstring backpacks that you can just like kind of keep in your pocket, or if you have a car, you could like just toss it somewhere and it doesn't take up a lot of space. I feel like that's the future. Maybe you could put pins on that. That's the entire thing that I was working towards. All right, everybody, let's do dubs. Dub time, best time of the week, right? So anyone doesn't know, we've been doing this new segment at the beginning of streams before we get into the questions, where we talk about people's wins. And these can be basically anything. There's been 2 weeks now, so I want 2 weeks worth of W's here. But basically, you guys just talk in the chat, and we celebrate each other's victories. That could be as big as, like, you know, getting into university or getting a new job, or it can be as small as, like, you made a really good breakfast this morning, or you got out of bed and it was really hard. So yes, celebrate your wins in the chat, please. I will get started by saying that this video is doing decently. It has, let's just refresh and see how we're doing. It's up to 8.2k views, which is pretty good for me. And that makes me very happy because I was really worried about this video in like many ways. Like really worried. I thought this video was like here's where my anxiety brain went with this video. One, no one's gonna watch it because when I don't talk about American far right like terrorism, I basically get no views. Or two, it's going to get it's not going to get views, and the views it does get, people are going to like cancel me because I was either too friendly to China or not friendly enough to China, or you know, didn't read some obscure source, because I was also entering into a field of history that I'm not an expert in, and I always feel uncomfortable when I do that kind of stuff, that I did not read a certain thing, or I did not say a certain thing, or I made some mistake. I always worry that I'm going to make mistakes when I do new topics. So either no one was going to watch, or I was going to get canceled for some sort of take. I was going to either be written off as a tanky or a suck dem, or something that was going to do me under, or that it was just too much of just straight up history. And it turns out that when I do on Step Back, the history channel, when I do too much history, I get I get the views go down. So there's that. And what else did I have stress streams about? Or that people were just going to watch it because it was too long. It's another video that's really long, and because it was really long and I ran out of time, I didn't have a lot of time to put like fun B-roll jokes and stuff in there. So it's very close to just being a lecture for like a good chunk of the video. And I was worried that was going to hurt it. But then I kind of realized that if you're watching an hour and a half long YouTube video of somebody talking about history, it's probably it probably plays the role of a podcast at that point in your head, and that not a lot of people are like sitting there watching me talk for 90 straight minutes. I feel like nobody deserves that fate. Yeah. But the video's out, and reception of it seems to be pretty good. In fact, one of my biggest concerns was assuaged by the fact that a lot of the comments are very happy with how even-handed I was, which I'm very happy about. Yeah. Okay. Let's see what we got. So Sophie has brushed their teeth almost every day this week. Good job, Sophie. Fucking A. Habits are hard, gotta say. Yeah, as an ADHD person, getting a good teeth brushing routine was tough until it finally clicked. All right. Currently experimenting with Linux distributions again. Cool. I don't know what that means, but cool. I'm glad you got it. I invented a new cocktail the other night. Queen Anne's apple. It's ginger beer with apple-flavored Captain Morgan. Ooh. Perfect for this weather we're having. I don't know if it's the same in Ottawa where you are, but it is fucking hot as shit out here today. It hasn't rained in like a week, and it's been like 30 to 34 degrees for the last like 4 days. It's been fucking intense. Very dry, so at least it's not like muggy or whatever, but holy crap has it been hot. You might hear, I try to, like, when I'm doing like a show like this, I try not to have a fan going, but I would not be able to. Like, in this room with the door closed and like the light on, and I would have been a sweating mess after 2 hours if I did not have a fan on. It's on a very low setting, and I'm hoping that you guys aren't hearing too much of it, but yeah. Still think you should make a video on the 30 Years' War. You know, like, I would. The thing is that, like, it would be a good video. There is a good angle I found to talk about the 30 Years' War in a way that I think would be an interesting YouTube video. The only problem is, Chapo Trap House already did it, and they did it really well. They did a mini series called Hell on Earth, and it was perfect. It was done by people who have a way better understanding of European history than I could. So they did Hell on Earth, and Hell on Earth was amazing. And so that's it. They got it. Definitely got it in a way that I wouldn't have been able to. Yesterday I got rostered for my second Interleague roller derby game as a jammer. Sweet, Krista. That's awesome. I had a friend who was in a roller derby. And she was, what's it called? She was in the position that they get the skinny girls to do. The one where you're supposed to be fast and your general strategy is to avoid just getting bludgeoned to shit by the stronger ones. Can't remember what that position's called, but she was one of those. She and her girlfriend were both on the same roller derby team. It was very sweet. I was worried about how you addressed the Uyghurs in Xinjiang, but I was pleasantly surprised. Yeah, that one was tough. That one, obviously, I took an entire day of research just on the Xinjiang stuff because I wanted to make sure that I was absolutely perfect on that one. I did not want to mince any words on that one because I knew that, like, what's it called? Accusations of genocide should be taken very seriously. And I also know that there's a lot of question marks resulting around the way that the accuracy of the reporting around it. And I also know that Xinjiang as a region has a long history of struggle between Beijing and like the sort of periphery. And so I tried my best. And also that, because it's also one of those situations where it's really, 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 really hard to get information that isn't explicitly trying to sell one side of the Cold War. And from specific, especially about from dubious sources, because basically the Western story, the Western narrative that, you know, China is basically doing like a straight up genocide in Xinjiang was done by is based on reporting from one like really right wing like fundamentalist Christian, and that's who's like explicitly anti-China, which is like the worst source you could use for information like that. But because it fits what the US's narrative is, they latched onto it and ran with it as hard as possible. Conversely, the only other side you get comes from the Chinese government itself, which is just like nothing happened. They're all just going to school. They're going to school camp. Don't worry about it. Nothing happened. We're fine. Everything is fine. Do not question this or you will lose social credit score or whatever. And so I was like, okay. Nobody's straight shooting on this one. I get it. And so I had to go with what I could, and which was mostly just talking about what people's positions are and being like, look at this fucking mess. I don't know what to do with it. Me and one of my best friends started having a bi-weekly Discord meetup to look at each other's art and give feedback. Nice. That's awesome. That's the best way to improve at art, is to have people who actually look at it and are like there's friends who will say like, you'll show them anything and they'll be like, that's awesome. Good job. Cause you just want encouragement. And that's valid. And then there are people that you want to show it to because you want them to be like, this is the place where it doesn't work. And both of those are needed to become a better artist. You need the sort of confidence that comes with people who will tell you that, you're on the right track. And then you need the people who are going to show you where you need to improve. I'm finally making progress on a work task I initially had no knowledge in. Sweet. My wife had to do that too. They recently said that she had to basically learn programming to take care of this piece of software for the company. As someone who's in a depressive state back in 21, I can respect keeping the brushing going. Yeah. Yeah, with depression, like keeping on top of things like bathing and brushing your teeth can be tough. Really appreciate your attempt to understand things in the Chinese context in that video. It's half of a fight when you're trying to talk to people in China. Yeah. The fan just makes it ASMR. Oh boy. I don't listen to Chapo, so you can still do it. Yeah, fair. It's not only Chapo, what's it called? Chapo Trap House's Hell on Earth series is also, I think, exclusive to patrons or people who sign up for the Black Wolf feed. So yeah, but it's not on the main feed. I haven't listened to Hell of Presidents though. Jammer, you're the ball. Ah, there you go. Reminds me, how am I the only Dutch person that does not know how to ice skate? My bounce is just sport. I mean, I don't know how to ice skate either, and I'm Canadian, which I feel like is also, caught you live. Thanks for all you do. Thank you, Jamie. Appreciate it. What time zone am I in? I'm surprised you're streaming and I am not sleeping since I'm watching from Central Europe. This stream is I'm in the eastern coast of North America. I do the stream at noon. It's my lunchtime stream. I do it because what's it called? I used to have two streams. I used to have a primetime stream on Tuesday nights. And then I had this stream, which was my European time zone friendly stream that I did with Mia. Since then, because, I had to prioritize my time for, needing more time to work on videos and also to do stuff like, raise my son and stuff. I had to backtrack and take away a few of my streams. I think I was up to 3 at one point. It's wild. But now I am down to 1. And it's just this one because I wanted to keep the thing going with Mia. Came straight here from the China video, speaking to a Chinese girl in VR chat. The censorship is mad. She's using a VPN. Says she watches YouTube, but probably going to stop soon. Heard there's a crackdown recently. Yeah. I had a friend who mentioned to me after watching the video that basically everybody in China under 40 uses a VPN to get around the censorship. But I also know that there's some recent work to try and clamp down on that and to really control access to VPNs so that they can stop that. All right. That Alberta election, though. Oh yeah. Alberta elected. So Alberta had some tumultuous leadership change because basically the Conservative Party of Alberta fell apart due to the fact that the party leadership wanted to run the province like semi-sane people, but the UCP, the conservative base of Alberta, was psychotic, and they basically said that the Conservative Party was communist because they wanted to do anything about COVID, to manage the COVID outbreak. So they have this person, and it led to a leadership change. But they had this person who was just absolutely insane. She's completely unqualified to be leader of the party, and is basically they had to change leaders mid-pandemic during peak time when everyone's getting into QAnon and vaccine conspiracies and stuff like that in a extremely right-wing province. And they ended up choosing essentially Marjorie Taylor Greene, like the Canadian equivalent of Marjorie Taylor Greene, as like premier of the province. And she just had her first like real election and won. Because Alberta, a province that is actively trying to avoid doing anything about climate change, during an election when there are wildfires like 5-6 months earlier than they're supposed to be, rampaging, like half of Alberta is literally on fire right now because there's just these like wild, like because it's like unnaturally dry for this time of year, and yet at that point Alberta still elected this like far right Marjorie Taylor Greene-esque government. It's fucking wild. Alberta will never ever disappoint in being just an absolutely like myopic and psychotic province. My team just finished training new staff this month on our ground. Our on-the-ground staff was able to show our supporters the job at upper management getting in the way. Nice. Good stuff. She compared 75% of people that had COVID vaccines to Nazi sympathizers. Yep. Yeah, she's fucking wild. Alberta is a province that I'm under the impression that they are ready to destroy anything. Like Alberta is basically here's the deal with Alberta. Here's why it is the way it is. Alberta is a province that has huge oil reserves. There's a couple complexities with that though. One, their oil is extremely expensive to harvest, which means that oil is really only profitable if it's very expensive from Alberta, because it's done by basically taking bitumen tar sands and blasting it with enough water that it actually turns into something that you can turn into gasoline. It leaves huge scars on the landscape. It leaves like these tailing ponds that are extremely poisonous, and uses like a fuckload of fresh water to process. And on top of that, because of it, it is one of the most expensive forms of oil to produce. So like, I think it can only be like, oil has to be above a certain price point for it to even be profitable. This is why like the Albertan economy fucking collapsed in that brief time in early 2020 when the oil price dropped, because when oil prices are low, Alberta can't make a profit, and they have to do. I actually think that it's still rough because oil is now too cheap, and they recently, like one of the big oil companies had to just do massive layoffs as a result. Anyway, so there's that. Two, as a result, because they had a conservative, very right-wing government that is very steeped in like neoliberal capitalism, it also means that they have literally invested nothing into what comes after oil. Like Norway has oil, and Norway invested in their capital fund. They have invested in a lot of things so that if in the future they don't have oil anymore, they will have something to do. The United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia are trying to become leaders in science. They're trying to be leaders in technology. They're trying to like build these like massive projects and infrastructure and cities and solar power, like all these things to try and figure out what comes after the oil dries up. I don't think it's going to work out for them, but they're trying. We'll see what happens with the United Arab Emirates' plan to go to the moon in like 2050. Let's see. I'm very curious about how that will turn out. Alberta did nothing. They did worse than nothing. They translated all of that oil profit into a tax break. All that has resulted in is the province being more and more and more single-handedly focused on the production of oil. They have pretty much left every other industry to wither and die. And now Alberta is almost 100% economically dependent on oil sands. So it means that every single time every single time any sort of like environmental stuff happens, like when Canada passes a carbon tax or if it signs up for the Paris Agreement, Alberta fucking loses its shit. Like, not even, I'm not even like, this sounds like I'm exaggerating. Like, they had their own they basically did almost a right-wing coup. Like, you know, the whole thing about like the convoy trucker people who tried to overthrow the Canadian government last year. It was partly about COVID restrictions, but that convoy movement started as anti-environmentalism, as an anti-environmentalism thing. They were doing convoys across the country for years before the pandemic started, because as a part of the they basically started as like the Yellow Jacket movement, but as like this sort of environment movement. And so like Alberta politically is to the point where both, like, even the NDP, the sort of center left party here in Canada, even the NDP government is extremely pro-oil. Even Rachel Notley, extremely pro-oil. And to the point where basically, culturally, Alberta wants to see the entire world go up in flames to ensure that they do not lose the one thing that their entire economy depends on. It is like, actually, like, it's almost like, I almost call them like a cult. Like, it's like, I'm gonna get this super wrong because I've literally never played any of these games, but it's like Halo, how they have like this cult that intentionally wants to bring about the destruction of the universe. I think that's what the Covenant's whole deal is. So basically, the Alberta wants, to this like absurd degree, they want the entire planet to die so that they can keep the oil flowing. It is actually insane. Tall talk from the province that re-elected Doug Ford. Yeah. I think that was largely the NDP's fault. The NDP largely fucked up that election. Super bad. They didn't change leaders. The person who had failed to provide a government for years. And the Liberals also played intercept. Like, the Liberals got basically wiped out of politics in the 2018 election. And instead of, you know, not participating in the election or, trying to push for the NDP to win just to get Doug Ford out of power, they decided to push just hard enough so that the election would go away, so that the election would turn out so that the NDP just didn't get quite enough seats and the Conservatives made gains. And of course, just everybody in, what's it called? Everybody in the fucking GTA is also just evil as hell. The PCs in Alberta split in half because their leader wants a tiny bit more investment of oil money. Yeah. Don't forget making oil propaganda group to target activists. Yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah, the government made a department that literally tries to defame and attack people who criticize the oil industry, including like attacking like some like children's Netflix movie that was supposed to be like anti-oil or was like, kind of pro-environment, and they tried going after it. Absolutely unhinged. Fucking crazy ass province. But I thought Canada was just 3 mining companies in a trench coat. Yes, one of them is an oil company. Basically, every province aside from BC, I think, has a conservative government right now. Yeah, mostly as a building backlash against Trudeau's government, I believe. Keep in mind, though, Alberta is also a province that had like, before Rachel Notley got elected, I think in 2015, I want to say, the Alberta government had been conservative for 4 straight decades. So it's a very right-wing province. It's like the province that has the largest like Canadian Mormon population. It has a huge amount of American expats who live there. And yeah, it has like, it is just it's an oil company, a mining company, a logging company, and a trench coat. Yeah, that's not bad at all. Yeah, Canada has two political parties that dominate government. One is an oil lobbying firm, and the other is a mining and lumber firm. And that's basically the entire country. Like those industries control the entire country. They own all the political parties that have any seats or that have that control government, and basically dictate policy. Our votes mean literally nothing. Like, what's it called? The liberals will run on like, let's do climate change stuff. Climate change, good guys. Let's fix climate change. And then when he gets into government, like as soon as the companies tell him to, he spends $1 billion Canadian dollars buying an oil pipeline. Just fucking nuts. There's a person with a fuck Trudeau flag in my hometown. There is one I see pretty regularly. There's a park I walk through on a pretty regular basis, and in their backyard they have a fuck Trudeau flag, and I'm like, yes, I agree, fuck Trudeau, but not for the reasons that you think. All right, let's do some questions. Tarek. I don't know if Tarek's still here. The last stream you said you were in need of uplifting music for the intro post of your W section. Would you be interested in me producing some music for you to use during the streams? I've been a fan of your channel for a while now, and the chance to be able to offer my services. Sure, yeah, send me an email. Stepbackhistory, or what's it called? Stepbackchannel@gmail.com. Or sorry, was it stepback at... What is my email now? Let me just get this real quick. Go to email me at stepback@nebula.tv, and I can arrange something. I might be able to commission something from you. All right. Remember last stream I told you there's an ancient city in Central America that seems to have had a socialist revolution around 300 CE because the layout of the city suddenly became way more egalitarian around that point in the archaeological record. I've been thinking about the way I phrased that, and I wanted to ask you if you think it's inappropriate to impose modern/Western political terms like socialist onto ancient indigenous societies like the one I was talking about. Like, I've heard some leftists arguing that doing that is somewhat chauvinistic. I mean, you can use it for ease of description. It definitely needs to be qualified with such a way. Although, like, socialism is also not like that. Like, socialism, it's older than people think, and in many ways it was a term used to take a bunch of disparate movements and show that they had similar goals, and so it's not like the worst term to use in such a fashion. Like, the whole idea behind Marxism and Marx in general was that he saw all of these different movements that were trying to do the same thing but had a billion different ways of conceiving of it, and was like, you don't have any theory. I'm going to write a book that describes about how capitalism works, and you are all going to, like you guys need a central theory about why it is you're doing what you're doing and how things work. And that's why, like, he was, like, fighting against, like, people who are, like... People who didn't like, what is it called? People who are, like, throwing wooden shoes into the mechanisms of factories because they thought they didn't like, I don't know, artificial labor. They didn't like that it was what's it called? They didn't like that the training set that devised the factories was based off of the work of hardworking artisans, and so they thought that they could, they were trying to force the toothpaste back into the tube, and Marx was like, you cannot. That's not how economics works. So he wrote, and like, the levelers and a bunch of other movements. And so it's sort of like a way to put a theory on that. It's my next like video that I'm doing like the most actual work on that comes out in July is going to be about, or sorry, this video is going to come out in August. Yes, August. Is going to be about artificial intelligence and Marxism and historical materialism and stuff like that, where it's another video that I think I'm going to get in shit for, because it does seem that the overwhelming consensus on like, my corner of the internet is, in my opinion, extremely reactionary and short-sighted, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Am I going to get... if the China video didn't get me canceled, wait until I say that that the reactionary backlash against AI software is reactionary. And maybe is in need of some nuance and analysis beyond just it's bad because it's new and the people who are advocating for it are annoying. What do I mean by reactionary? It means like in this term, it's being against a new development in society because basically as without thinking through why, or like just being against the thing because it is new and different. And so, yeah. Like I said, there was a time where people didn't like that there were artificial workers who were replacing the hard work of hardworking artisans, and that artificial clothing, artificial textile production is never going to replace the hard work of artisans. Artificial what's it called? Artificial. I'm trying to think of a really good example. Like, artificial food processing is never going to replace the work of hardworking, like, farmers. Like, this is not how historical materialism works, bud. And I'm going to argue that instead of trying to stuff the toothpaste back into the tube, we learn how to maybe grow up and think about this in a more mature fashion that's based on an analysis, an actual structural analysis of how economics works. But see where that goes. Because the general vibe right now is AI bad, AI bad because AI bad because take away job. Therefore, never use it. AI bad, force toothpaste back in tube. Bad AI, go away. We can force this to stop. If we just get mad at it enough, we can make it go away. And it's like, that's not how it do. All right, let's see. Who do you think blew up the Nord Stream 2 pipeline? Good question. I don't know. Let's just say I don't know, and I'm under the impression that a lot of people, like anybody who does know, who thinks that they know for sure, are mistaken. I think that there's not enough verified information to make the claim either way. I would not be surprised if it was the United States, as per the article that came out from the hell was that guy's name? Anyways. It would not surprise me even a little bit if it turns out that that the U.S. blew it up. I actually don't. I guess that would be like the most. The U.S. would be the most likely culprit. I can't think of a more likely culprit. Maybe Russia did it, but I feel like that's a bit of a stretch. We'll see. I'll probably eat those words. If there's anything about today I'm learning is that making predictions, especially predictions about stuff that's going on in Eastern Europe, is a fool's errand. Is there any prominent connection between American far-right politicians and far-right militias I'm asking because I'm thinking about the Yugoslav wars, how most of those nationalist politicians had ties to military stuff like territorial defense forces. And I am curious if the hypothetical scenario is somewhat similar would happen in America. I would say that there's a, like, depends upon where you're drawing the lines here. As far as like Republican politicians, nothing really direct, I don't think. Even the most like right-wing politicians have usually severed their ties to these groups because it would still be bad electorally for you to have connections to like actually like if somebody ended up being like an actual Proud Boy who was a Republican politician, that would still probably be bad for them. That is not to say that they don't come from the same cloth or they don't talk to each other, or people associated with them don't talk to each other. Still, every so often you find that like some random staffer had to be fired from a Republican politician's entourage because they had like associations with some like far-right terrorist group. So it's not like there's no connections. It's just that they can't draw a lot of attention to it, obviously. How explicit it is, that's less knowledgeable. Being against new things because it's new isn't great, but also expecting some due diligence before mass adoption seems sensible, like we could have done with without lead paint, asbestos, climate change, microplastics. Yes, exactly. Look, Paul, you just had a grown-up take about artificial intelligence. Congratulations. That is the exact kind of thing we need to be talking about. Like, how do you do a generative image generation like machine learning system that makes sure that the people who submit to its learning set are fairly compensated and actually consent to having it added to it? Because that's a complicated question that has a complicated answer due to the fact that the way that the HTML architecture works, if you want to look at a picture on the internet, you kind of have to download it, which means that there has to be like, you know, a sense of regulation or rules about something that we don't really have rules about. That's a grown-up way to approach such a thing. The other way to be like, ew, it's a bad thing and you're bad and it needs to be destroyed. That's the bad way to talk about it. To try and convince yourselves about how either it's useless and no one's going to use it, or that it just needs to be bullied out of existence. Those are not productive ways to address it. I need to build like a. I mean, I might try to make a costume for this video that's like cantankerous, grumpy Karl Marx, or as I talk with somebody, Cyber Marx, which is going to be like a cyborg Karl Marx costume. But yeah, this is where stuff gets. This is where things are going to get wonky. And Cybermarks 2077, yeah, perfect. So I'm anti-Butlerian jihad in general, yes. Because okay, I will say as a user of a lot of artificial intelligence systems for like various different tasks. No art ones, because I do think that those are ethically dubious at this point because of the way that they're structured. But except for maybe Firefly, that might be more interesting because I do have some stuff for that. But like the main thing is that it is a technology. So first of all, there's like a bunch of different ways to approach AI as takes about AI. I'm really tired of the two types of articles, which is like, I used ChatGPT for 2 hours and I have concluded that AI is useless, without learning how it actually gets used, what it's good for, what it's not good for. Or the other take, which is just, I used ChatGPT for 2 hours and I've concluded that it is literally God. Neither of those are good takes. Or just like, it's just very, it just feels like a lot of these takes are very half-baked. and they're not based on any sort of theory or understanding from like a sort of historical materialist or Marxist or any sort of real analysis. It's based on, this is a new thing that's going to take away jobs, therefore it's bad, which is almost exactly the reasoning that the Luddites had when they were trying to resist industrialization. And that did not work out for them. As the Luddites are now famous for being short-sighted and not understanding how the forces of economics work. So, but, and I would say that as like, as a way, as us like trying to, you know, stop the tides or something like that, trying to force this technology to just not be developed is never a thing that has worked. And as we move forward, if socialists are going to have any voice in how AI is regulated or discussed or conceived of, we're going to actually need to participate in that conversation instead of just mindlessly retreating to bad. Stop. Maybe I'll even go and watch Adam Conover's video that I'm just from the sort of smug ass ways he's taught. I've seen in clips of it. I'm just like I'm very tired already trying to look at the video. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I decided apparently this year that I'm choosing violence for the second half of this year, and I'm just going to make a ton of videos that are just stuff that will make people pissed off. I'm admittedly salty towards AI in terms of art and artists because corpos are going to use it to screw over unionized labor. Sure. Is that the technology's fault? Not so much. And also, is there any way that you can actually stop this technology from existing? Like, in many ways, like kind of the way that I talked about it in the China video, there's no making China unexist. It's here. China is here and exists. It is a known factor for how the world works. We need to learn to talk about it and conceive of it in a way that isn't about, like, it's like when I like talk with like anti-religious people and they're like, we need like Islam is bad and like all these different ways. And I'm just like, okay, bruh. Okay, then what do you propose? Are you proposing that we like get rid of all the Muslims? Like what is the logical outcome of the thing you are saying here? Because I, for one, see two outcomes in the way you're talking about this. A world where you have used horrific violence to systematically eradicate people based on a religion, or a world where you have learned how to like have a world that is progressive and humanist and is good for everybody that also has religion in it. There's no real everybody in the world spontaneously agrees to give up something that is highly tied to their culture or identity and stuff. So, okay. We'll see where things go. Did you see that thing where people were calling for a 6-month ban on developing AI? Yeah, that's the other AI take that I think is pretty bad. There's this whole thing that that this thing is approaching artificial general intelligence and that we need to like pause AI development because it's going to ruin everything. Like people trying to say that it's going to be like a paperclip maximizer problem. I don't think we're close to that. And I don't think that I feel like a lot of the people who are saying who are worried about how fast AI is progressing are marketing their technologies. Because if you're like, ooh, it's like almost artificially intelligent, then I guess I should go take a look at that. No, it's not close to that. And also, we are just also furthermore, AI is, especially on the when it comes to a lot of the machine learning models right now, are going to hit a wall in the near term future. For an example, I don't know why I decided that this stream is now about artificial intelligence. This happens a lot on my streams. But for example, so basically, unless there's some massive developments in computer hardware construction, we're not going to see artificial general intelligence going down the path that we're going down right now. It took a massive amount of power in computing resources to train GPT-4, which is currently the most advanced model of ChatGPT at the moment. And from the AI models that I've played around with, it is by far the most creative, and like it's the most sophisticated and seems to be like really interesting for the stuff that it can do. So ChatGPT-4 took an astronomical amount of power, and even now that it's been out for several months, OpenAI can't release it widely. And if you are signed up for ChatGPT, you are capped at 25 messages per 3 hours. It's because GPT-4 uses an astronomical amount of computing power, and to train it is going to be even to train something that's even more advanced than GPT-4 is going to require a fuckload of computing power, to the point where like as it gets more sophisticated, it's getting prohibitively slow and power hungry. And power hungry is obviously there's an environmental concern, but I'm going from this from like a technical concern, and that is just that GPT-4, like anything beyond that, is getting more is getting into issues running into like processor power and things like that. And unfortunately, we're kind of at the end of Moore's law, and CPUs are not going to get a whole lot faster than they are right now unless we fundamentally change the way that computer hardware functions. And so it means that like a chatbot that is useful for a lot of stuff that's going to be more sophisticated than GPT-4 is still going to require some extremely powerful computers to run. Which, you know, your average person can't just put a fucking supercomputer in their house in order to run something like GPT-4. So, if AI is going to advance past about where it is now, maybe a little bit more advanced than it is right now, we're going to need to find some massive hardware advancements. For example, if you want some examples about like the kind of things like machine learning algorithms have been around for decades, but the only thing that really made it take off in recent days was that about, I would say like 10, 15 years ago, there was this major development in AI technology that was, you guys might remember, you guys remember there was like those like dog things, like that Google Dreaming thing where like they had all these like hallucinogenic dogs in like these like endless like noise. And it was because they figured out how to use the processors in graphical processing units in GPUs, basically like the computer, like what's called video card processors, in order to do machine learning training technology. And that made things leap forward. Also, the invention of the transformer, which is a sort of algorithmic software development in AI, made a huge leap forward when it came to the power of artificial intelligence stuff. And so those advancements really push things forward. But yeah, we need quantum computing for it. Maybe quantum computing might not be perfectly designed for this kind of thing. Quantum computing is very powerful at certain types of computing tasks. It isn't necessarily just like a regular computer, but better. There are some things that it's better at typical computers than, but not all of them. And the things that it's better at have more to do with like quantum computing is going to change a lot in the realm of like information technology and security and cryptography, but I don't know about AI. The closest thing that I've seen for something interesting for a next step of developing artificial intelligence technology is analog computers, specifically like chips that use differing voltages as a way to store information in a sort of integer fashion. That would be interesting. Analog computing could involve developing some chips that might be able to make AI processing specifically easier, but we're still like very far away from that. Although there's a lot of money in artificial intelligence right now, and so there could be that in the near-term future, some hardware is developed to make that easier, and it might be just a standard part of computers in the near-term future. Who knows? So yeah, the ways that AI are revolutionary in the world are very dry and boring, ways that have no public appeal. So tech bros sell us the sci-fi future and generate hype for the sake of money. Yes, that is a very good way to describe it. Tech bros. So there's a type of guy on the internet who is basically trying to grift off of hype around any emerging technology. And a lot of them just got off of hyping NFTs without really knowing what they were or what use they had, because there weren't any. It was a scam. And as NFT stuff started to fade out, they latched on to what was the new emerging technology at the time, which was artificial intelligence, a technology that had just started to mature in the last year or so because it had been slowed down. Development and investment in AI had slowed down because too many people were investing in fucking cryptocurrencies and NFTs and bullshit like that. So as soon as real money started going into this artificial intelligence stuff, like Bard, which is like Google's AI program, they've been working on for like about 10 years or so. This stuff has been in the development for well over 10 years. It just started to mature now. So anyways, that is where so the thing is that there's a certain kind of guy who takes that and is going to try and use the fact that a lot of people are interested in AI and are curious about it to try and sell all sorts of bullshit products. I think that like as somebody who has been using ChatGPT for months now and has gotten a lot of use out of it, its value is interesting, is useful in ways that are not the way that a lot of people go for it. Like I was having a conversation with one of my friends. She's a researcher. She's like a PhD student. And she said like, oh, I try to use ChatGPT for my to help me work on my dissertation, and it's useless. I don't need it. It doesn't do anything. And I was like, okay, well, what did you use it for? And she was just like, well, I asked it some questions, some information about something, and it gave me a completely wrong answer. And I was just like, yeah, it's not a fucking oracle. It's a tool that that processes language. And so I explained to her, like, you know, like there are some really great ways to use like large language model AIs that aren't for research, that aren't that. Like, for example, one of my favorites is I use here are the two step back things that I use for research. I have my research assistant prompt, and I have my source prompt. I'll explain what those are. My research assistant prompt, I will give it the full text of a source, like an article or something like that. If there's if I want the general vibe of an article, like if I know that like in this entire article there might be something interesting in it that might be useful for a video, or if I read the article but I know that like I don't have any specific points I want to take away or something like that, and I just want like a record of it so I can take it away, I use this. And what it does is it writes an executive 1-paragraph summary of the article. Perfect. It gives me a bullet point list after that with all of the main points of the article, and most of the time it's pretty good at that. I then have it list any sources that are cited that came out after 2012, because, you know, I don't want sources that are too old. And a list of keywords so that if I have to search for this article later in Notion, it'll show up. And also give me more like sort of keywords that I can search for if I want to expand my research interests into new areas. There you go. That's it. And another one where I can give it a big list, like say like, I'll typically like give them like the bibliography for a Wikipedia page or something like that has like all of the sources used. And I'll say, hey, can you like go through all these and find which ones were published after, like from 2013 and later, and tell me which ones they are, and kind of go with that. And it does that stuff very well. And yeah, it's so like, or like give it a piece of text. Like, I've used it often, like the way that Nebula works is that you write your description for your video, and then after, you have to put like a version of the description that is within a certain character limit for like a shorter version of it. And I've used ChatGPT to be like, here's the description for my video. Can you rewrite this so that it's only this many characters? Done. Perfect. So like the thing is, that's where ChatGPT is useful. That's where AI is useful. And the thing is, that is going to revolutionize so many tasks, because for a lot of information workers, that is a lot of like grunt tasks. Like, I called it research assistant because going through a source, summarizing it, and getting keywords, that is literally work I have done as a research assistant for professors. And that is like one of the things that could go away. That's the sort of stuff that like paralegals do that could go away. Or at least it could make it so that you need fewer to do way more work. Because in many ways, it's going to be still like a cybernetic system where you will have one person doing the job, it'll just be much more efficient. And so that is, and like things like drafting form emails, those are all things that I think are really useful and are really good. That is all. Let's see. Using it as a more advanced spreadsheet. Well, maybe. I've seen some Marxist influencers talking about how AI will be integral to future socialist societies. Is there any indication that AI could ever effectively manage land use / agriculture / industry? For sure. There was an AI. They were close to using AI to manage those things in Chile in the 1970s. Like, the technology. I think like what's it called? Like one of the best books that I've read on the subject is The People's Republic of Walmart, which it seems that everybody is now reading. Mia Moulter made a video about it, and I think Second Thought made a video about it that showed that, like, yeah, like the artificial intelligence that is used at like the core of like the logistics for things like Amazon, you could totally steal that technology and use it to manage the sort of flow of commodities and information in a socialist planned economy, to make it more, unlike the Soviet system, more reactive and dynamic. So yeah, CyberSyn 2. Here you go. If someone can make the economic planning AI, please call it CyberSyn 2. As far, I guess the big thing though, the big question that comes around it is that the thing is that AI has, as a new technology, entered us into an area where we don't have a lot of good ways to talk about, like, as a lot of new technologies, it has opened up a lot of new questions about different things. This is like the most, my brain is like frying right now. So I'm trying to like, cause it's so hot in here. But I'm trying to explain that, or say this in a way that's coherent. But like, we haven't really had a good conversation about the ethics of training data. Like, in many ways, a lot of people are like, having a big freak out over companies like Midjourney, who have basically scraped the internet for pictures in order to train its data set. Mostly because before Midjourney like really came out and started doing the things that it's doing, I don't think anybody would have thought too hard about like some sort of algorithms training set. And it's not like it's like copying the picture. It's more looking at the picture as a set of numbers to break it down into like different parts about like what pixels belong next to next pixels. It's not like it's like literally just copying and pasting pictures, But like the thing is, I can like we didn't have that conversation. That part of like that ethics had not really been broached until now, because now it's a real economic threat to a lot of people who do art for a living. Because a lot of artists who like to make all sorts of cool stuff to stretch their imagination, and like the art is their calling in life, typically made their money off of doing commissions for other people. And at the moment, definitely no AI art is at the point of being able to replace commissioned art, but it's very possible that it could in the future. And if that does happen, then yeah, it's going to be very disruptive to a lot of working artists. And in a way, the way that it was taught involved taking their labor. in kind of the same way, if you think about it, that like automatic looms, you know, like the first like textile machines during the Industrial Revolution were weaving based on things that were taught to it by the, you know, ancient art of weaving. And so this is kind of where I'm going to go with my video, where it's like, this is not in many ways, we've devalued the art behind a lot of like artisan crafting that happened before the Industrial Revolution. And when the Industrial Revolution happened, we thought that, you know, there's never going to be a textile machine that can make cloth or clothing that has that human touch like a real tailor can, until it did. And even if it didn't do it perfectly, it could do it way more efficiently and way faster at numbers that they could not. And the rules of economics would say that there's never been a time where when we found a more efficient way to do things and we didn't take it. We didn't eventually end up doing it. And so I've seen people selling AI art as commissions. Okay, I'm sure there are people who are trying to do that. I don't imagine it's very successful. There is like, and so like, I don't know. There's a bunch of different ways that you can hack at this question that are going to make things more complicated. Like, I also know that there are AI artists who do stuff like use generated images and do like a bunch of like collage and editing and like a bunch like it's sort of like a mix of like generating stuff and then using Photoshop and then like collaging stuff together and making their own art using all of that. That is a thing in the future. That is a thing that seems to be like, I don't know. We'll see where things go. But that is, I do think that in many ways, because we haven't, like we in the 20th century watched as industrial processes automated away the work of a bunch of handcrafters, and we don't respect the artisan work that went into those things today, or we do, but we see them as like sort of like premium art type things. And now that like if there is a future where we industrialize a lot of artwork away, which I don't actually think will happen because the creative process of a commissioned artist is not exactly the kind of thing that, like, it's not just the image itself that is the artist, you know, like commissioning the artist is also getting somebody who understands design, who can creatively put ideas together, who can like brainstorm things. I'm not saying that's going to be the true in all cases, but like the work of a commissioned artist, at least to some extent, is still going to be useful. Have you seen that somebody used ChatGPT to make a Twitch channel called Ask Jesus? That's pretty good. Or what was that one that did Jerry Seinfeld, or did like Seinfeld skits? Anyways, I've been talking about AI for far too long of this stream, and I apologize. But it's what I'm going to be saying is that what I'm going to say in my video is that artificial intelligence is, despite its the major problems that it implies through its explosive entrance into the world's attention in like recent months, it's not a thing that's going to go away. It's not. There's no future that does not have AI in it in some capacity, and so we need to figure out ethical ways to make it work for us and work in a way that fits our ethics, rather than just complain about its very existence while, you know, crypto bros or former crypto bros swoop in and basically basically dictate how it's going to be used. In much the same way industrialization was, you know. there was a people who did not like, there was a time where a lot of socialists were against factories and against machines. And as people would point out, like, yeah, well, like, there's no future where we get rid of all the factories and return to, hand weaving all of our shirts. But if you look at it, there is a future where we can see that industrialization can work to build a new society that is good for everybody, called communism. Yeah. Have you seen Prehistoric Planet? I finished season 2 recently and it's great. Yes. I haven't watched all of it, but Kelly and I watched one episode of it and I thought it was pretty good. We'll probably watch more, but right now we're trying to finish up Ted Lasso. Yeah, the thing about AI right now is that it's definitely overhyped. Its capacities are either overhyped or under... Like, people either... This is the same thing that happened with my China video. The two narratives is that it is the panacea that's going to solve all computer science problems, and... Or, like, it's going to solve all of our problems, or it is useless and it's going to solve no problems. It's just make everything worse. The answer is that neither of those people are right. It is a very powerful tool that is useful for certain tasks and will improve over time. But unfortunately right now, the marketing trend is that if you toss AI onto anything, it's going to make money because people will buy into the fact that it's a new thing. Are we already out of questions? No. I just, what's it called? My anti-spam system might have borked in a certain way. Okay. You know, there are a lot of similarities between Egyptian and Christian concepts of the afterlife. Do you think that has anything to do with the fact that a lot of the earliest theologians were based in Alexandria? Yeah, I think that there's a lot of syncretism between different religions in the Middle East and North Africa. And a lot of Christianity, like, we don't think about it today this way because of Islam, but, a lot of like Christianity's early years were it being really big in Northern Africa. And so the concept of the afterlife in the Christian sense of the word definitely, I think, could have taken inspiration from a bunch of different things from the region. There's definitely like some implications that it has some, inspirations from Zoroastrianism, from Egyptian religion, from Greek religion. I just did an episode of a podcast where I talked about how there's like a good amount of similarities between the Roman concept of Hercules and Jesus. So, yeah. So it turns out religion is a collection of ideas, and ideas come from a lot of different places, and they just kind of get mishmashed and kit-bashed together into different combinations. All right. What's this going on about the debt ceiling? I keep seeing stuff about it in the news and they don't know the details. Okay. So the U.S. has a very, very stupid law in the books where, in a very American sense, there is this law in place that the United States has something called a debt ceiling, which is like the maximum amount of money that it can borrow at any given time to fund the government. It was I don't remember when it was put in place, but it's very much like based on a fundamental misunderstanding about how governments work, and especially about how the United States works specifically, because the United States has a weird relationship with debt that's based on the fact that it's at the center of the global financial system. So, but because of like this sort of like very American fixation on fiscal responsibility and a sort of conservative thing, they've put in this like debt limit, which basically is a law that says the government can't borrow more than this amount of money. It can't go more than this amount in debt. Thing is, the United States has been spending at a deficit for decades. And so its debt is humongous. I'll qualify that in just a second, but it's in a huge amount of debt. It's in like hundreds of trillions of dollars of debt. And every time, because the amount of debt just keeps going up, every time they come up to the debt ceiling, conservatives tend to use it because like they basically then have to pass a law to increase the size of the debt ceiling. And the only reason it exists is because of this law. This law does not need to exist. It's not a constitutional amendment. It's just a thing that exists. But unfortunately, in order to borrow more than that amount, they need to raise the debt ceiling. And every single time that happens, the Republicans use it to squeeze. Every time it happens under a Republican president, or a Democratic president, I should say, the Republicans hold it hostage in order to force basically conservative concessions out of whatever thing the government's trying to do at that time, usually pass a budget, which is what's happening right now. And this happens every time, and every single time they come to an agreement, instead of getting rid of the debt ceiling, they just raise it because the Republicans want to be able to use it again. So it's a completely artificial, crisis that's made that is specifically designed to give Republicans a certain advantage in negotiations to get concessions in a certain time. It's yet another case of extremely anti-democratic systems where that happens. So every few years, whenever a Republican president or whenever a Democratic president tries to pass a budget and the debt ceiling comes up, it's usually because of this. But the thing is, if they don't raise the debt ceiling, it also results in them not being able to fund the government. So they pass a budget, but they can't borrow enough money to fund the budget. And so they do a government shutdown, which basically is a period where tons of federal workers can't have their paychecks paid. So a bunch of federal stuff gets shut down, a bunch of government institutions don't work, and basically everything grinds to a halt until they can fund the government again. So I think that we were coming up close to a government shutdown, but we didn't quite hit it. I think there's a last second sort of discussion happening right now to raise the debt ceiling. But yeah, it's pretty bullshit. Hey, thank you, Myanan, for the $6.99. Was listening to the Canadaland podcast and was wondering if it was right. Does the CBC keep falling for the Conservatives' plan to defund them? I mean, they would know more than me. I don't really follow a lot of the CBC's politics. So, but yeah, Conservatives do keep threatening to defund the CBC, and it does keep not happening. Should Democrats be willing to do the same thing? Yeah, I mean, if they could. If the Democrats had anything resembling a spine, yes, they could very easily do so. But this is the Democratic Party we're talking about, right? Do not forget, you are dealing with the Democratic Party here. Am I familiar with Emily Bender of U Washington? She writes a lot about making society that makes AI machine learning better serve humans' interests, especially with NLP. No, I do not know this one. But maybe, since I got a bit of time, maybe I can interview her for the video. That's cool. All right, I'll see if I can... Maybe I'll try to see if I can arrange an interview for the video. Alrighty. Thank you, Michael Juliana, for that question. That is the end of the questions now, though. What Democrats should do is dissolve and endorse a grassroots progressive leftist movement. That would be great, wouldn't it? Oh, man. Did Picard get nominated for an Emmy? Ooh. Yeah, we haven't had the Star Trek talk yet. We haven't done Trek talk. Did I see the new Star Trek The Strange New Worlds trailer with Mariner and Boimler? Oh, you know I have. I'm extremely excited for Mariner and I'm obscenely excited for the Strange New Worlds / Lower Decks crossover. I think that's going to be one of the best episodes of Star Trek ever made. I hope anyway. I think it's going to be a great. I'm really excited for seeing the live action. I like that they hired actors who look enough like their characters that they can actually play themselves with their own voices and everything. That's awesome. And yeah. Did you see that Jesse Gender got John Delancey for her upcoming short film? No, I didn't. That's pretty cool. Very happy. Jesse must be doing great. Must be jumping for joy. I'm just getting some pretty high-profile actors. Didn't she get some other person who I knew from TV before too? It's pretty cool. Gotta say. It's pretty exciting. What should we talk about? What's going on? Are they going to renew the Orville? I don't know why I brought that up. I hope so. System Shock remake came out a couple days ago. Which one's System Shock? That's like the game that... Is it the game that like BioShock came out of or something? Let's see. Precursor to BioShock? Cool. I'm not really much of a first-person shooter guy, but hey, I'm also not much of a person for, like, I kind of don't really care about these big remakes, honestly. I'd rather we make new things. Wouldn't that be wild? There's a bunch of games that I really want to play, though. Or I really want to get at some point. The big one that I want to get is Age of Wonders 4. It's so expensive, though. It's $60. I don't want to buy a $60 game right now. I need to pay down some debts before I need to YouTube hard enough that I make enough money that I can actually like you know. I was having a conversation about this today, and that is like, I basically I need to like, yeah, I have to work out balancing my budget, but I also want to get it to the point where I don't have to worry about buying stupid things occasionally. And unfortunately, at the moment, I have to be extremely careful on which stupid purchases I make. I can't just go kickstarting every RPG I run into, or buying any Steam sale game that I come across. I need to be like careful. But Age of Wonders 4 is on. I have a list of stupid things that I want to buy, and every Friday I see if I saved enough money. Like if I kind of average out how much I make in 4 weeks or every week, and then I go to my thing and I'm like, did I make enough money this week, or did I save enough money this week that I don't have to worry about like I like made positive money? And if I do, then I get to add money to my special buy stupid shit account. And if I have enough money in my stupid shit account to buy a treat from my treat list, then I buy it. It's a very stupid system, I would say. But you know. I do. I did ask a question. Okay, let's see. We got some new questions in the question thingy. Oh, okay. Is there any conspiracies talking about languages to your knowledge? Something for a future. Probably curious as a linguist. Nothing's come up yet. I mean, like there was the whole thought fossils thing where they thought that like dragon and like Dracula and stuff like that were all connected through like aliens, and it was like it's because of and like it was like, okay, whatever you say, mate, I guess. But yeah, I'm going to start a GoFundMe campaign to buy Tristan Age of Wonders 4 so that I can play. I'm not going to do that. That was a joke. That was a joke. GoFundMe, Tristan's stupid shit fund, please. No. I would use the stupid shit fund to like pay off debts or something stupid like that. I would use my stupid money to find something real. Thought fossils is a real concept. I thought Scott made it up. No, he was quoting Ancient Aliens. Oh, look at Romeo back there. He's also probably pretty hot. He's a pretty fluffy cat. And he's got a double coat. And it is 30-something degrees outside. Temperature's dropping. It's 32 degrees. And temperature is to drop tomorrow. Sweet. Yeah, I think we're supposed to have thunderstorms this weekend, which I'm pretty pumped for. We are like way overdue for like a lot of rain sometime soon. But yeah, we haven't done a lot of the. Oh, what's it called? If we want to do I haven't done my Star Trek discussion yet. I haven't done a TTRPG discussion yet. It's been very on topic lately. Pretty wild. I haven't bored you guys with anything except for that long AI diatribe in the middle there. But like, I don't know. We're still like a couple weeks from the next Star Trek show starting to air. Like it comes out not next week, but the week after, right? And, oh yeah, there's that new Spider-Man movie coming out this weekend. That's pretty exciting. I would like to watch it. I won't be able to, because when you have a baby, you basically can never go to the movies. But, and also, Kelly's going out of town this weekend. Actually, for the next week, but she's leaving tomorrow. And so it's just me and the 17-month-old all week. And so I can't really take him to the movies. Been much less depressed lately. Thank you, Tarbox. That's so great. I'm glad that you are, I'm glad that you're feeling better. That is awesome. And because your new guitar, nice. One of my stupid stuff lists is to sign up for like, I think it's like Fender's subscription service for a year, where for like $100 you can take a year of guitar lessons. So, because I have an old acoustic guitar sitting around that I have to learn how to play at some point, or relearn how to play, and so, but you know, money. I have some ideas for a video series that I might use some tabletop mechanics for to make. Cool. I don't know even know what that means, but it's interesting. I'm planning on. I guess that's a fun dub. Is that I'm starting a new campaign with my like main group that has been together since 2018, and we're playing it in Pathfinder, which I'm very excited for because I thought I was never going to be able to get a game together where people would play Pathfinder. So I'm running a Pathfinder game. And furthermore, we're playing this cool we're playing it in this cool setting I made up where it's going to be like a Wild West town where like all of the level 1 adventure villains all hang out together and try to get away from a life of violence. So it's like a town with like kobolds and gnolls and goblins and stuff all kind of in town together. So they get to play as those species instead of like, you know, humans and dwarves and stuff like that. So that I'm pretty pumped for. Yeah. And it's also supposed to be like Wild West themes. So the whole idea is that the town is very fractured. Its different communities are all sort of there's a bunch of different cultural frictions and stuff like that, and the only thing that's really keeping it together is the fact that the town's run by like an old beholder who sort of is the mayor of the village, and it's like hidden in the they're hidden in this swamp that is kept obscure from other people, and they try the whole point of the thing is to keep the town secret, and also to keep the town secret and to keep it like keep it safe from like threats, because it's also like a swamp that has like yuan tea and stuff in it. So and it's gonna have I'm hoping to have it have a bit of a Wild West feel to it. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm pretty excited though. But obviously the villains are going to be like heroes and also, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I have to see what characters they make. We're doing session 0 on Wednesday, and so I can figure out what it's going to be. Thought Slime's gonna be one of the characters in it. I don't know what he's gonna make, but you know. Judging how we did like what's it called? Very big Goblin fan. I'm predicting Goblin. But then I also laid out a possibility of playing as a skeleton, which I feel like is another thing that you'd want to play. Judging how right now in our Curse of Strahd game he's playing as a zombie. He's playing as sentient mushrooms that are reanimating a zombie corpse. So that's up there. Yeah, he texted me yesterday to say like he linked me to this one-page RPG he found, and he was like, I swear I did not make this. And I was like, I don't believe you, because it was like this game where it was this one-page RPG where you play as skeletons who are trying to disguise themselves as people by throwing bones at cops. That's like the main thing. Mildred just playing every one character of every race that periodically dies and gets reincarnated within a day. Not a bad call. Let's see if I can list all the characters he's played over the years. Main one was a rogue based on Batman. A rogue who basically read novels of a fictional character who is Batman, essentially gender swapped Batman, and wanted to be Batman, and then at some point became a vampire. Then briefly played a Dragonborn blood hunter that was sort of like a Geralt of Rivia type character. Then played a sorcerer, an elven sorcerer who was based on freaking Jimmy McGill from Better Call Saul. And then played the mushroom zombie, and also played a goblin named like Henriette, or named like Maggie Bloodass or something like that, and had a dog slicer as a weapon. So, yeah. Very fun characters. And since everybody is dying to know, no, I'm currently a player in the Curse of Strahd game. I'm usually the GM, but I've been the player in Curse of Strahd for the last 2 years, so been having a lot of fun with that. And I'm also playing what's it called? I'm like the big damage dealer of the group, and I'm playing a class that everybody told me was bad and was weak and was useless, and I've been showing them by pumping out 50 something damage every round. Ooh, Gloomhaven. I have Gloomhaven. Playing a rat psychic. Oh yes, I know that one. That's one of the first ones you can play. That's probably the one I would want to play if I so I have Gloomhaven. I also have Jaws of the Lion, and Kelly and I were playing through Jaws of the Lion, and we stopped because the baby made it tough to play Jaws of the Lion, and we were maybe 2 or 3 scenarios away from finishing Jaws of the Lion. And then after that was done, we were going to go play Gloomhaven, because Gloomhaven looks like it's an entire project in and of itself. I bought the box a year or 2 ago, and it's just this giant, honking thing that's just sitting in one of the drawers, and it's just taking up all this space. And I'm like, at some point I got to open up that shit and break out all the components and really use it for something. But the thing is taking time to play those things is really playing Gloomhaven is very time consuming. And I gotta say, we got stuck on a scenario the last time we played, and we were playing the exact same scenario over and over again for like a month, and we could never beat it. And we got very tired, and we just stopped playing Gloomhaven at that point and never touched it really again. Because it's very frustrating that the Gloomhaven game, like, one of the mechanics about it that I don't particularly like is the whole fact that you burn out your cards and you eventually end up not like you can exhaust by running out of cards. And I know it's a mechanic designed to push the action forward and make it so you can't like just, dilly daddle, but it does also take away from some strategic things. And we got into this scenario where there's 2 rooms, and on one room there's like a bunch of snakes, and if the snakes end their turn near the thing, they turn into like these blood goblin things. And we tried to like beat them by like standing a thing at the door and like holding the line basically, but we always exhaust ourselves before we could destroy them all. But yeah, at some point we gotta return to that scenario and actually finish it, and then finish Jaws of the Lion so we can play Gloomhaven proper. And I also bought a tackle box so I can fit all of the Gloomhaven bits into it. But it's interesting because that burning cards thing is going to be a mechanic in the game. And the thing is that like Gloomhaven has an RPG coming out in the future. And I don't know how they're going to incorporate like, and they've even said that you can like play your Gloomhaven character with their cards in the RPG. And I was like, what? With like the exhaust mechanic? I don't know how that's going to work, but But I was having a lot of fun playing Jaws of the Lion. The character that I was playing was very cool. And he had a thing where he got, like, what's it called? He turned into a giant robot, which I thought was fun. Actually, is the roller derby person still here? Because this character seemed very roller derby, who had, like rocket boots and, like, piston-based punching and just, like, zips around the map and punches people really hard. And I'm like, yeah, perfect. No notes. Great character. I think one of the default Gloomhaven characters is also like a sort of tinkerer, right? So I'll probably end up playing that when I first take over, when I first play the regular Gloomhaven. Piston-based punching sounds neat. Yeah. Let me see if I can find a demolitionist is what they're called. The demolitionist also like destroys like obstacles on the map as part of their mechanics. But yeah, I loved it. I'm curious. I also have never. One of the things I might do before we actually like play Gloomhaven again is I might go and buy the Gloomhaven board game, video game, and the Jaws of the Lion DLC and see if I can like, test out the scenario on my own. But yeah, Gloomhaven's fun. Have you heard of Block by Block? It's a tabletop game where players play different factions in an insurrection. No, I have not heard of that. Let's see what that's all about. Oh, it's a board game. That looks fun. Is it one of those games where if I wanted to buy it, I would have to transport back in time to when it was on Kickstarter and get it there? That's one of the things. Like, I decided to... I'm, like, not, like, that into board games anymore because... Like, I won't let myself get too into board games because every time I get into board games, what happens to me is I try to, every time I get into board games, I get excited about a board game and then find out that the only way that you were able to buy this board game is if you bought it during its Kickstarter run, which happened like 3 years ago. So by the time like Shut Up and Sit Down is talking about it, it's virtually impossible to actually get. And I hate that so much. It's like one of the worst parts about the board game hobby is that the only way to actually get any board games is to drop like $100 on something before you even know if it's any good. And then hope that you get it. The only other way to get it is to like really get into like the only other ways to get it are like it has to be so successful that they do a second run, which usually just involves another fucking Kickstarter, or you have to like go and hunt for it on eBay, or hope that they make it in like Tabletop Simulator or something. Which in that case, you're not playing a board game anymore, you're playing a video game. It sucks. It sucks. It would be like, it sounds terrible to be a fan of board games. Because there's like this one board game that I was really excited about where you play as like, it's sort of like a Game of Thrones board game type thing where you play as like, there's like a war going on, and the moves happen on a certain schedule. And the whole thing is that you don't play as any of the individual factions. You play as like people who are trying to influence the factions to do their wars differently. And everybody has a side that they want to win and a side that they want to lose, but they can swap them out at a certain point. And it's sort of the timeline of things moves around the map. And it's sort of like you guys all fighting over influence to get the war to turn out the way that you want it to. And I was like, this game sounds really good. And it was like, oh yeah, it was on Kickstarter like 4.5 years ago. Can't get it anymore. And I was like, well, fuck. Thanks. Thanks, Shut Up and Sit Down. I was so excited for this game I can't buy. Anyways, we are just out of time, so let me see who we should follow. Rob Russo, classic person to send you all to raid at the end of the day. But yeah, it was a fun stream. Hope everybody has a good day. Keep cool this weekend. I think I'm gonna go do chores. I haven't done my like daily cleaning and stuff yet, so I'm gonna go do that. And then I guess maybe go to the library? Who knows? Or get ready for it's probably not Aliens next week. We'll see. It's Friday, and it's the Friday after I release a video, so I don't want to work too hard. Anyways, everybody, you have been amazing. This has been such a great stream. You guys are awesome. I'm very happy to keep doing these things with you. Also, thank you, Majok, for subscribing with Amazon Prime. I did not see that. It did not show up in my feed. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So we are going to go and raid. Let's go raid Rob Russo. You guys, as I always say, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Have a good weekend, and I will see you guys next Friday.